Good morning and welcome to Cedar Creek Homestead. I hope you're having a wonderful day today. I wanted to do my weekly Thursday morning coffee time with you and update you a little bit about what's going on here at the farm, as well as a little discussion of a topic today is, are you prepared? And around here, we're getting ready to start planting. Got some cabbage plants. I'm planning on putting them out this week. The temperatures, it appears, the temperatures are going to be above freezing at night. So it looks really pretty. It's going to start warming up into the 70s every day this week, and I think near 80 by this weekend. So it looks like spring is in the air. I think Tuesday this week was the first day of spring. So everything's really coming on here. I'm hoping to do a video and show you some of our fruit trees that are blooming and how pretty everything is this time of the year as it starts to come to life again. I wanted to talk to you just for a minute about, are you prepared? Now this is kind of a touchy subject because people look at you like you're doing something strange. Like if you prepare, the TV has even made it look like they're weirdos that prepare, and I think the television shows only showed what they wanted to show. They didn't show all the behind the scenes stuff and how things really are. But nonetheless, people that I know prepare are just normal old folks, and they just prepare because common sense tells you to prepare. And I'm not talking about prepping necessarily or being a prepper, but part of homesteading, you have to be prepared for what comes. I'll tell you a few things that I prepare for. Is I every fall will buy seeds for this spring, and I put those seeds back, and I have a lot of seeds that now some of them's getting kind of old and not needed anymore. They probably are not any good anymore, but I buy enough seeds to plant this spring. So if I don't have the money, if the seed store's all closed, we go through something really bad, I've got enough seeds to at least get me a little garden going to eat on. We also put up a lot of canned goods for the winter, and we have I even buy extra coffee and things to be prepared. But my question to you is, are you prepared should an event happen? You know, this time of the year here we are in tornado season. One thing that we would love to have is a tornado shelter here on the place. Most people do. They've just built them down at our schools. They're fixing to, I believe, be open pretty soon, where the public can go in when school's not on and go into these storm shelters. But we are just being prepared for whatever, earthquakes. We've actually here in Oklahoma had several earthquakes, and they've not done severe damage, and only one went long enough that I could really feel it, but it was kind of scary. And the others have been just light rumblings that I have felt and thought that might be an earthquake. But one night we sure enough had a shaking here at the homestead, and it really scared us. But my question to you, are you prepared? In the wintertime, the old homesteaders had to be prepared. They put up enough food to make it through the winter because they didn't have any money to go to the stores and buy food. And the store supplies were very limited anyway, so they worked all summer putting up food. Then they had chickens they could kill along as they needed throughout the winter. And instead of having a lot around here, instead of having turkey and dressing, they had chicken and dressing because they had chickens readily available and not as many raised turkeys here like you would think would have been. My grandparents used to tell about killing hogs, and they would, on the weekends starting about in October, when the weather started getting cold. It seemed like it got colder years ago earlier and stayed colder than it does now. So they would start killing hogs, and people would gather at like my grandfather's home, and his children would help, and several other people would show up, and they would butcher several hogs, and they would fry the sausage and put it into jars and actually kind of can it. They would put some grease on top. They turned the jars upside down is what they used to say. I'm not sure what the reasoning for all of that was, but they would fry the sausage patties, and then when you got ready to eat sausage, you just opened up the quart jar, and the sausage patties were already ready. You just warmed them up in a skillet, and you were ready to go. They also smoked and cured their meat of the hog because it would last throughout the winter. If the days warmed up, they didn't have to worry about the meat spoiling because they had no refrigeration. They had an ice box, and they would have to go down to the main road, which is a few miles from here, and get ice. And in the summertime, when they were out of school, the kids would take a little red wagon and go down and get a block of ice and bring up. But that was just to keep the milk cold. If they didn't have that, they would go down to the spring and put the milk in there. And you've seen other homesteaders on YouTube that have videos out that live that way. An American homestead, I believe, does much similar to that by dropping their stuff down into a well where the water is more of a constant cool temperature. So being prepared, but I have people who give me a hard time about this prepared. I have Christian friends that say, oh, you're taking your hands out of the Lord. Let me tell you, the first thing is you've got to make sure you're right with the Lord. And you work out your own salvation with fear and trembling and make sure that you're right with the Lord. Don't want to turn this into a sermon today, but your relationship with God and Jesus Christ is the very first step. And then there's other things. And I've prayed and said, Lord, help me to get prepared. And several years ago, the Lord dealt with me to get out of debt. And I didn't know how I could because I owed over $1 million. But you know what? I got out of debt. Now, I have a little debt that I've took back on now, but it's very minor. It doesn't stress me. I'm not worried about it. And I took it out because I thought it was a wise decision after I had prayed about it and thought on it. And I felt it was okay with the Lord. But we don't go out frivolously and buy vehicles and farm equipment and things just to be having. It has to be something that is really needed for us to go borrow money. Because if you're in debt, you got problems. I mean, if something bad happens and you can't work, you're in trouble. Last year I had open heart surgery. And I did not work for a whole month and was slow working for several months. And as I was recovering from that, and it was slow go for me. I had a triple bypass, and kind of young for that, but I was a walking dead man, they said. I'll maybe have a video about that later. But anyway, we had some money put back, not a lot, but we try to keep some way or another at least $1,000 put back somewhere that we could get to in the event of an emergency. So we had enough food to eat on and things that we survived. I've shared that in other videos. But we were prepared we didn't know this was going to happen to me. So we were prepared, and then when it did happen, I didn't go around like a chicken with my head cut off wondering, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? But some of my religious friends, I've even heard them even give sermons that if you are preparing and you think an apocalypse are going to happen, why, and you're preparing for it, that you're just taking it out of God's hands. And that's just a bunch of nonsense. And I'm going to tell you, I'm prepared because God's told me to get prepared. And if you read in God's Word, you find that bad times are coming. So that gives you enough right there. If you believe God's Word and got faith and you know bad times are coming, why not be prepared? I'm not talking about like some have done and going underground and buying missile silos and all that stuff and having food for 100 years. Let me tell you, I don't plan to live for 100 years from now. But I do plan to live, and I'm going to survive. And what gets me is those that say you shouldn't go prepping, shouldn't be prepared. Go buy insurance. They have house insurance. Now, is that not being prepared? Let me think for just a minute. That sounds like you're getting prepared. In case your house burns down, you're prepared. So, they have life insurance. Well, why get life insurance? If there's no need, the Lord's going to take care of it. Some of them have wills. Well, why do you need a will? Don't worry about it. It's in God's hands, based on their opinions. But they go have insurance and have insurance on top of insurance. Well, my prepping is kind of like an insurance. And part of homesteading is being prepared. In the old days, they had to put up enough hay and supplies to feed their livestock and chickens throughout the winter. The old barn over here has a corn crib. It's a big barn, and on both sides of it are corn cribs. And they would harvest their corn, throw it over in there, and they would feed that to their animals. They would just feed the whole cob with the corn and everything on it to the hogs and to the cattle that needed a little feeding. They generally didn't feed grain to the cattle. in the wintertime, but if they needed a little supplement, that's how they done it. And I tried to get my step-granny to let us tear the corn crib part down over at her farm, which is very close to here, because when we'd haul hay, they started storing the square bales of hay in there. We had to throw it over those corn cribs, and it was kind of hard to get it in there, but I think she didn't want to because she thought they might have to go back to that day. And all the old timers around here that used to prepare, that I can remember, said they believed we were going to go back into a Great Depression era. And they remembered what that was like, and they remembered how rough it was to survive, but they knew through hard work and being prepared that they could make it. And they made it through very, very hard times. And they made it before YouTube and Facebook and modern day computers. They survived somehow. And it was mostly from hard work and trust in the Lord. So I'm asking you today, are you prepared? Maybe you say, well, I can't put up $1,000 and have it setting aside. You could start slowly and prepare that. Oh, I can't have enough food to live on through the winter. You could start this summer by setting a goal that you were going to can a certain amount of tomatoes or green beans and learn how to do that. And the next year add to it, and the next year add to it. You say, we may not have time to prepare. I've been preparing now for real hard and heavy this preparation and homesteading life for the last 10 years. I've really done it all my life, but the past 10 years we have really gotten into it, and we're adding a little bit every year and advancing, and now 10 years has gone by, but I'm a lot more ready today for what would come than I was yesterday. As I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I know that if I'm prepared and I'll believe in God's Word, what He says, I know there's one place that says don't worry about tomorrow. Let me tell you, I'm not worried. I'm just prepared. And by being prepared, it helps you to be a little less worried. And if things come and happen like they say it is in the Bible, then I would say, well, I've trusted in God's Word. I was prepared somewhat. You can't be prepared for everything. But I did what I knew that I could do, and I was somewhat prepared and ready. And then maybe I could help other people, because I know there is a bunch around here that aren't ready for anything. Anyway, I appreciate you tuning in and listening to me today, kind of rant a little bit about being prepared. But it kind of want to bring attention to this and awareness. I really think our churches should be telling people to be prepared, but I feel like that somehow foolishly they ignore what's coming, what's ahead of us, and ignore the truth in God's Word, and believe you can live like there is no tomorrow, and there is tomorrow. And we're going to have to be prepared for it. And I'm prepared today, should this be my last day. But if I have to stay here for a while, I'm prepared for that as well. I hope you'll think about this today. And if you are preparing, I wish you well. And I hope you have a wonderful day today. God bless you. Have a great day.